Really, this teamwork stuff is great.
Yeah.
Trying
Two
to
for
be
the price of
helpful.
one.
Yeah.
What is your goal?
To
You want some
not-
stuff you have to go to a person?
To not have a beneficiary have a benefit attached by a creditor or even them. They say, well, I want it now.
You want to protect assets that you want to give to people at a later time.
Right.
How's it going?
Hey.
Good. I've got two quick questions.
Sure.
One would be, are y'all like estate attorneys or anything to do with estate attorneys or just general legal?
We've got a broad base of knowledge like most lawyers, so if we don't know the answer, we'll tell you we don't know the answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, number one question is, in a trust, there's a clause, I believe they call a spendthrift, that I think affects beneficiaries to say that a beneficiary has a future benefit in my estate, for instance, but a creditor cannot force a beneficiary to say, you have to take your benefit now. You're getting this property now. I take it and I want to
Correct.
get it.
Yes.
And so what I'm wondering is if you have a single member trust that might be a declaration of trust, aren't you as the grantor or the
settler of the trust?
Settler or
Yeah.
the
I've
trustee?
done a little bit of research on this already.
I
can
have
tell.
been doing
Yeah,
a lot.
You got some good words.
But what I'm trying to figure out is, aren't you also a beneficiary of your own trust? Would you put a spendthrift statement to say that no person can attach? But I know that a regular living trust, since it's revocable and everything, it's like your money, and they say, yeah, there is no protection.
I'm going to teach you a dirty little secret that lawyers don't want you to know.
Let's
Okay,
hear it.
guys, zoom in. Okay. It's not about asking, can I do something, right? You want to start with what is your goal,
Right.
right? So we talked, you asked us, but can we do this specific thing? But that's not the real question.
Right.
What is your goal? Let's start at the top.
I guess the goal would be in a single person trust
Even higher than that. Forget the trust for a second. What is your goal? You want some stuff you have to go to a person?
To not have a beneficiary have a benefit attached by a creditor or even them. They say, well, I want it now.
You want to protect assets that you want to give to people at a later time.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's interested
So-
in protecting it from creditors.
Yeah, so the spendthrift is one of those ways that to make sure that the creditors can't attach to it and force that kind of activity. It basically says, look, you're not going to get it then. And so all of it comes down to the language of the trust itself that really outlines those things. There's some very specific language in
Right.
trust for that.
Yeah.
But they're very common. I mean, literally a Google search for trust and estates clauses for preventing creditor attachment will
Right.
pull up some really good ones. You definitely want to check state by state because
Right.
Texas has a really robust probate statute and trust and estate statute. Other states have different ways that they apply to it, but that's the way you're going to go about finding it because this is a very common question.
If it's significant enough assets, right,
Yeah.
that it's an amount that you're worried about, please talk to someone that specifically practices in
Right.
estates, right? If it's
Yeah.
a smaller amount,
Right.
right? If it's not a life-changing amount.
Right.
ChatGPT is getting smarter and smarter by the day, right?
Right.
I would almost start there before Google.
Because it's going to give you some very specific answers about what you're doing and
Okay.
how those specific clauses are going to be there to protect it.
Right.
But then you're going to have to modify the trust language. The declaration is just a recital of what's in the trust language,
Right.
so you might have to modify the trust itself.
Okay.
It's only as powerful as the questions that you ask it, right? Whether you're
Right.
Googling or you're using ChatGPT.
Yeah.
If you try to give it an answer and say, is this right? It won't be as good at helping you as if you say, what is a way I could do this? So if I were gonna start, and this is generally true about almost anything legally,
Yeah.
I would go, what are the ways I can pass assets to someone else?
Right.
And then it's gonna give me a list. How many of these have protection clauses? And then it's gonna give me, right? And so
Creditor protection. Yeah.
you
Right.
walk it through, have a conversation with it instead of because the most dangerous thing, and this is true for lawyers and non-lawyers,
Yeah.
if you think you already know the answer, you stop looking for the answer.
Right.
And then you just go, okay, I have this thing, and you kind of get clouded.
Yeah,
But
too
I think
myopic.
You're going about it the right way already.
Okay.
You're asking the right questions.
Well,
You're doing the right
really
research.
Giving me a lot. Really, this teamwork stuff is great.
Yeah.
Trying
Two
to
for
be
the price of
helpful.
one.
Yeah. Well, we've got a show, a legal call-in show. We have a comedian that's on the show as well. So it's kind of legal issues and laugh along the way. It's called Hardly Legal. We're on Spotify and YouTube. So would love for you to tune in. Check us out.
What is it?
Hardly Legal.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
I like it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I did have another one, but maybe other people.
No,
Do the
go
other
ahead.
one. We don't
You're
have
in.
anybody yet.
Well,
Yeah.
another one was in relation to a petition against Dallas Central Appraisal District, and probably more specifically the ARB.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious for like a homeowner where there are several properties I've found on the tax rolls that have been settled by DCAD that are way below what the mass appraisal value to my house is.
Sure.
And so I'm thinking of petitioning, and I'm just curious if there is a specific. I think the statute said something that you can only go after them, the ARB, if you think their methodology did not consider all the correct appraisal methods.
So
And that's very specific.
it's not
probably.
just the appraisal methods, but specifically it's using appropriate comparables or comps.
Right.
So if you've got a bunch of low properties, and here's what I'll say. You don't know what's happening in those properties. Maybe there's pictures from the inside and it's bug infested. Maybe there's shifting foundations. Maybe they're on an old dry cleaner and they're contaminated, right? So those may affect it, and those may be factors. But oftentimes those comps are the number one thing that the ARB is looking at in using the methodology, because you either have to use actual value, so a transaction has occurred, the market has said what the price is, or you've got to use comps. So what are the other ones valued at in the neighborhood that are similarly situated?
Right.
And oftentimes they're just not using the right comps, or they go, okay, we're going to use this street because they are zoned in the same neighborhood, but really you're more like these 5 houses that are the lower value, and that's where you go in using either a property appraisal specialist. There's tons of those that out there that do great work every year, or even if you do it yourself, going, hey, my place is like these properties and it's unlike these other properties that are higher in value. The other thing to think about is that there are various reasons why people will have exemptions to prevent their property taxes from going up, so that also might affect some of these other properties.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a whole industry on fighting and challenging appraisals.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've kind of done it for 20 years, and this year's it was outrageous. What they
You
did.
and a lot of other people have been
So,
very concerned about it. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
All right. I think y'all are doing great.
We're
Thank
trying.
you.
You get more people.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
great
Have a good
day.
one.
Y'all too. So
Yeah.
long.